Here we are, coming to you live from Golfstrong HQ with Mr. Golfstrong himself after 8.5 hours sleep. How are you feeling?
Good, yeah, good. It was, geez, a bit wiped yesterday. Like we had the Scratch Cup on Sunday. It's just a busy day. I was actually sponsoring it, so you're kind of, I don't really have to do anything extra really. Like there's a bit of a thing at the end, and you're giving out the prizes and all that. But yeah, it's a full-on day. Playing with 3 of the young lads as well, so it was good to see them. You know, Justin is only 12, 13, really good player. Sean Reddy, 17, Jack 17, Jack Murphy and myself. So it was nice just to kind of seeing us all playing together, and the lads gave it a rattle, in fairness, Jack and Sean. And even Justin, seeing him, what his game is like, and seeing the work I still need to do on my own game. But yeah, it was good. It's a good day, but it's a long one. So you're kind of, then I'm back up at like 5:15 Monday morning, back into work. It's just, yeah, I was wrecked yesterday. So as we were both discussing, and grand now today.
Well, in terms of sleep, like what would be your regular number of hours?
I'm up at 5 every day. Like it's just what I like to do. So I train in F45 every morning at 6, and that gets my day off to a start. So, but yeah, Jesus, I'd be happy enough to go to bed when the kids go to bed, like, you know. So yeah, I'm just kind of, yeah, I have enough of the day and just want to get up and get at it again, like, you know, so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And just last thing on the Scratch Cup, what went well, what didn't?
I think it's glaringly obvious. I just need to really, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to dedicate some time every day to my wedges. I used to be a good wedge player. I'm still a good wedge player in my head. I just haven't had the time, I haven't put the time into it, and it's regressing. Stuff on my long game is really good. A lot of heat on the ball, a lot of pressure, stuff I like. So I'm up at Noel now on Thursday. We'll do a good session there. But yeah, just time management really, putting some time back into my wedges, which were not good. Shot 74, 71, finished 10th. It's not good enough for me. So that needs to change fairly quickly, because, you know, we've the East of Ireland coming up, the Amateur Championship. That really is the purple patch of someone's season if you can play well there. You can either have a great year or a very average year, probably based on, in my head, those couple of weeks anyway, you know.
A session with Noel, what would that typically look like, or would it vary?
Well, I'm very open with him. I sent him a voice note this morning that was just very open to where things are, and we have that relationship. So in fairness, he called, and, you know, I just said, look, there seems to be a kind of a narrative going around that, which is grand. Sure, look, I'm 42, and like, you're playing with young fellas, you're kind of saying, and Mark Gazzi won the Scratch Cup, similar age group to the lads, 17, 18, just about to go to college, and, you know, there is a kind of a narrative that, all right, you're kind of done, the young lads are coming in through, and that's great, but that's the furthest thing from what's going on in my own mind, like, so I need to address that. So I've addressed that this morning with Noel, and we're going to go through that on Thursday, and we're also going to do it the following Thursday, which will be the Thursday before the East, because I'm working in Dublin that Thursday. I have it all planned out in my head, and then I will I like just to go to a tournament and get very insular, like, and just spend time on my own and just really get into it. So that's the plan.
Sweet as. Yeah. Well, this episode kind of builds off episode 7, where there was a small bit of backlash or heat on your comment on Swing Your Swing, which was brilliant, like, yeah. You know, and a few quick searches into the bowels of the internet, like, and it's obviously a topic, and, you know, yeah, everyone's had their say, but I'm just going to read out a couple of things that I found specifically on Reddit. Actually, a guy called Jackson, aka Galaxies, I won't say the word, but it starts with P and ends in Y. My dad told me once, just keep swinging your swing, and it'll make the adjustments. Absolute shite advice.
Sure shite.
Bieng Honan, the PGA Tour golfer Olympian, youngest ever winner of the US Amateur. Swing Your Swing only works for good players. If your swing looks shit, go fix it. And then Bloody Right Nostro said, Christ Almighty, as progressive and accepting and open-minded I try to be in my daily life, this phrase makes me want to punch a goddamn wall whenever I hear it. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, well, first of all, that wasn't a jab, like, that was a pure tongue-in-cheek statement on my own golf, right? Understanding my own faults in my swing, etc. But like, if Swing Your Swing was true, there'd be no PGA Pro in a job, or no coach would be in a job. So it's the biggest sort of shite I've ever, I remember, you know, back to, and I have this picture hanging in I think it's in Hermitage, of a phrase of Arnold Palmer saying, swing your swing. You know, basically something, the connotation is like, don't complicate it, what you're doing, just swing your swing. Easy for him to say when he puts it through his right bicep every time going through his downswing, like every time. But if you have a technical flaw in anything, putting, chipping, bunker play, long game, whatever it is, you can swing your swing. Howard Bennett used to coach us years ago. He was my first national coach. Real smart guy. And he used to say, practice makes permanent. So if you were going to repeat a motor pattern of a certain movement, time after time after time after time, you know, that will become a repetitive motor pattern, or it'll become a repetitive pattern. Brings me on to, I worked with a performance coach a couple of years ago, and I think we parted ways based on, it was very interesting, my interpretation of making a swing change is the fastest way you can make a swing change is to do the massive exaggeration the opposite way as slow as possible. In other words, if you can imagine you're trying to swing, let's say, upright, okay? So if you have a flat backswing and it's causing you problems, or breaks your pattern through the ball, let's say, and you need to change it, you would have to exaggerate the opposite way. In other words, if anyone is imagining someone like Jimmy Bruin or Matt Wolf swinging across the line, that's an example of the opposite, right? You're not going to get there when you have a ball on the ground. You'll get somewhere away from your fault, but closer to where you need to get to. That's the process that I believe in, right? So some would argue, no, you can't do that, and there's proteins in your brain that'll blah, 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 and there's papers and blah, blah, blah. I get all that, that's fine. But can someone out there who has played competitively under pressure and had the club at the top of their backswing and had to figure out a way to get the club to the ball in that space of time and work that out by doing something different? In other words, oh shit, I know what my fault's going to be, can I do something different to counteract that? That's where I see the work, right? So that's where swing your swing is completely flawed in my head. So let's say someone has issues with shanks, right? There is a fundamental problem with the way the golf club is returning back to the face, right? Or back to the golf ball. There is a fundamental problem. There is a way the shaft is either getting taller or moving a certain direction, and it's making the part of the club hit the ball that causes a shank, right? So tell that person swing their swing. Like, it's not going to happen. Every second person is a slicer. Or swing your swing there. No, you have to, right? Your body is shifting first. The club is outside, you're imparting spin, you're moving your swing directions way left, face is open, slice, right? So there's a technical journey there that a club pro or a PGA pro will address with a player, get them to feel whatever, figure out what person they have in front of them. Are they a numbers person? Are they a visual person? Are they a feel person? Or are they none of those people? So how are they going to receive the information? How is that person going to be able to be coached? And how are they going to do this in their practice? How are you going to do it? Swing your swing? No, it's just wrong. Let's say someone who just can't chip. Okay, there's loads of them out there. It's a terrible thing whether it's electricity or whether it's like a fear. You know, I always bring this back to electricity. Great. There's great books out there. James Seekman has a great book. Very simple approach. There's a steep and a shallow. There has to be one, there can't be two. If there's two steeps, you'll duff it. If there's two shallows, you'll thin it. Figure out which one you are, right? Simple approach. There's all great, you know, you'll see Instagram, short game coaches, etc., etc. It comes down to technique, proficiency, end of story. And you know, I was chatting about someone this morning, the client this morning, and a name came up, will he make it? And I'm like, if me and you went to the PGA, right, I would bring you straight to the pitching green and I would show you the best players in the world, and we would just look at their ball, look at the ball and look at the spin, and go back and look at the ball again and look at the spin, and just go to the player and look how he's playing it every single time. Yeah. And I would say, grand. Now, is the player you mentioned able to do that? Or is there any bit of what you've seen there? And that's understanding the levels, like the levels, like it's like the Avengers assembled. These people are the best in the world because they do all of that stuff. They've it all done. But they've worked out the technique to do it, and they've worked and they've honed it. they've primed it, they've made it their own. You know what I mean? You go to the range, you'd see every single player flush it. All different movements, all different feels, but they're all proficient at it. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha. A name that keeps popping up is Jim Furyk.
Yeah, someone made a comment about Jim Furyk. Great one, like Matt Wolf, Jimmy Brune. Like, right, Jim Furyk, if you break his swing down, first of all, he does the same thing every time. Same thing every time. He returns the club the same way. So he has on the face of it, a strange enough motor pattern. But if you slow it down, he gets the club into the slot every time. It's the same thing. If you get him pre-impact, he's the same position. He is amazing through the ball. His hip rotation, where his arms are, his tilts, unbelievable. And that's it.
Is it fair to say, well, with the best in the world, with the PGA Tour players, each and every one of them can find the slot. How they do it might be different.
Yeah, so you could. There was a really cool graphic years ago going around with, let's make it more modern in everyone's minds. Let's say John Ram at the top of his backswing, Shane Lowry at the top of his backswing, and Tiger at the top of his backswing, right? So you have three real different tops of backswings. Shane is slightly over or across the line, if not parallel at times, gets across the line. Ram is very laid off and kind of behind him, and Tiger is in theory perfect, right? Or, yeah, pretty much. But you could have a lot more players in Tiger's world at the top of their swing, but you'll have different ones as well. But if you play them like 3-4 frames, club parallel, hips are open, lovely right tilts, like they're very, very similar. And if you stand behind them, I can see it because I've been at like real high level ranges. It's just the window and the flight of the golf ball is the same. It gets to a point, it either falls right or falls left, or it's very subtly straight. There's always some sort of DNA to the shot that the player repeats. That's the magic, like. That's when you know you have a really good player on your hands, or you can see, okay, the sound is the same. Great example, I was on the range, the quarter-final of the amateur a couple of years ago in Lytham, and Ludwig Oberg was in the other quarter-final, and he was next to me, so there's only 8 of us left. So it's actually a nice morning, because it's lovely, like it's just a nice morning. And I was warming up and I could just hear like the same noise behind me the whole time. And I was just looking at the flight, and he was hitting maybe 3 or 4 irons, but it was really good, really good.
An obvious difference.
Yeah, a level difference. Now, I think we both lost in that round, but like, I definitely knew, now he was the world #1 amateur, like, but he had that professional oil to him, like, that I have seen before, you know what I mean? Yeah, sure, look, you Aldrich Potgeider, another guy, played with him in South Africa. He won the amateur that year, actually. He has it, and he's won on the Corn Ferry Tour. Is it called Corn Ferry? Yeah, anyway, the secondary tour of the PGA Tour. He's won already. Martin Coover played with him in Soto Grande last year. He has a world-class wedge game, like phenomenal wedge game. I think he won on Challenge Tour as an amateur, and he's now on Challenge Tour. Phenomenal wedge game. And like they're the things that you see every now and then in a player and you go, unbelievable, or that is good enough, that's the level. My buddy Robin Dawson, amazing wedge game when he was playing. He better get his arse back in gear. But he had a chipping and wedge game that was good enough, yeah, absolutely. So you'll see nuggets in people's games every now and then. Aldrich didn't surprise me when he went on to, because when he had won the amateur, I was like, I'd love to. And then we were drawn together in South Africa, and I saw first of all, he has another gear. It was a par 5 we were playing in Mount Edgecombe. I know the bunkers are like 310. I hit a good one down there. I'm not short. And he sent one down there after me. It was like, Jesus Christ, like, what was that? And it was like definitely 190 ball speed. Like, he just had another gear that he could draw on, which was actually got me thinking then to get another gear. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or to have another gear that you can control the face and bring to the course. So I don't know where we're going with all of this, but I think it's just like, oh yeah, we're back to swing or swing. Like it's easy to swing your swing when, what Ben Ann said there, when you're proficient. It's as simple as that. And actually there was a lot of backlash, not backlash, but a lot of response that people were like, oh yeah, I've always hated that saying, or that's a load of bullshit. Or I just think it's a dangerous way to throw something to someone in a coaching perspective that you're going to go, Jesus, you could absolutely send that player down a rabbit hole that's going to kill him or her, you know what I mean? Like if you have a technical fault, get it sorted, end the story.
Speaking of technical proficiency, Xander Schauffele, what a win.
Yeah.
Silenced a lot of people.
I know, but I was like, silence for what? Like, you know, we were looking there, he's made $50 million on tour, like, how anyone can say, oh yeah, he's rubbish, or he's this, or he's that, it just blows my mind, like. So, you know, the way you'd say, you go back to, Monty or Westwood or Donald, like, they, you know, pity they never won a major and blah, blah. Yeah, it is, and they were absolutely good enough, and they've all had their chances, but I thought Xander Schauffele, even before this week, was definitely a level way above them and their prime, you know what I mean? Sure, he's so consistent. Like, he shot his second 62 in majors. Like, that type of stuff that's different, you know what I mean? Yeah, he mightn't be the most exciting player to watch, but he's very proficient. Like, he's a great example of a guy who's unbelievably technically proficient across his game. Swing, and he can swing a swing. But I bet you if you pull him aside, like, back to the videos we do every now and then, what's the feel? Like, there's something he's working on. Like,
yeah, I'd love to know.
You can see, there was a video going around there recently, he was hitting, let's say, a shoulder-to-shoulder swing, but had a ball between his forearms, so he's obviously has some technical relationship to some move or feel that he's conscious of. It's just the way it is.
Brilliant. I think that's a nice way to end. We'll be back for episode 10 really soon. Peter, thanks for all that.
Cool.
Brilliant.
No worries.